Do you ever live a lie so well even your mirror believes it? That was my life. My name's Derek Mason, 42. On paper, I'm just a taxi driver from Queens. Just another quiet guy navigating Manhattan's chaos one fare at a time. Graying temples, kind brown eyes, calloused hands, beat-up yellow cab. That's the surface, but dig a little deeper. No, scratch the surface and you'll find a man the world forgot, or at least thought they did. 15 years ago, I walked away from everything. My unit, my past, my name. I used to be known as Commander Mason, leader of Ghost Protocol, an elite tactical shadow unit you've never heard of. If you had, you wouldn't be around to talk about it. I chose a quiet life. No more covert missions. No more dead comrades. No more paranoia. Just a peaceful home, a modest brownstone, and a wife I loved, Rebecca, or so I thought. Rebecca and I had been married 15 years. She used to be a criminal psychologist, smart, analytical, absolutely brilliant. She gave it all up to be with me, or so she said. What I didn't know was that while I played the simple cab driver, she was studying me. Every smile, every conversation, every argument. Our whole marriage? A research project. Yeah, let that sink in. That Thursday started like any other. 6 a.m. coffee, 6:30 morning traffic, 7 in first fare. Businessmen, tourists, rich kids trying to beat the Uber surcharge. I was just another cab in the stream, but I knew something was off. A black SUV passed me 3 times in 3 different boroughs. Same partial plates, same tinted windows, tail job, rookie level. Then there was the man in the grey suit. He was at my pickup in Midtown, again in Tribeca, 3rd time at Grand Central. Too convenient. My training kicked in. The ghost never sleeps. When I got home that evening, the lights were on, warm glow through the window. Dinner smells in the air. The perfect scene. Too perfect. Rebecca greeted me with a kiss on the cheek and that signature smile. Right on time, honey. Your favorite, roast with red wine, Juss. But her hands trembled when she stirred the sauce. Small details. The devil lives in those. I watched her through the reflection of the microwave door as she talked about her day. Book club, neighborhood gossip. A professor fair who wouldn't shut up about psychology. Funny how she paused when I asked about him. He reminded me of your old work, I said. She froze, just for a second. Then the facade came back. After dinner, while she slept, I activated a surveillance system I'd installed years ago. Not because I suspected her, just my protocol. The ghost never leaves loose ends. In 90 minutes I found it, a hidden folder on the home server, encrypted, labeled Phase 3. I broke in, and what I found chilled my blood. Voice recordings, hundreds, text messages, photos, location tags. Conversations between Rebecca and a man named Michael Reeves. But that wasn't the worst part. They weren't just having an affair. They were planning my murder. Rebecca's voice echoed in my ears. He's just a cab driver. Once he's gone, we'll have everything. That night I didn't sleep. I made plans. She wanted a corpse. She was going to get a ghost instead. By the time the morning sun clawed its way up between Manhattan's skyline, I was no longer Derek Mason, the friendly taxi driver. The ghost was fully awake, and he was furious. Rebecca hummed in the kitchen, packing lunches for her loving husband, who was supposed to die in 3 days. Her every movement calculated, practiced. She was a master actress. But she didn't realize she was performing on a stage I built. And now the audience was watching. Me. I sipped coffee at the table, pretending to scroll through the news. In reality, I was scanning a secure server for any fresh comms from the cartel, cross-referencing timestamps, triangulating chatter. Within an hour, I had enough data to confirm it. 3 cartel operatives had entered the city 2 days ago. One of them, a name that sent shivers down even the worst criminals' spines, was El Coyote, the accident specialist, the man who made deaths look like tragedies, not hits, and Rebecca had signed the contract. I closed the laptop, wiped the prints clean with an old habit I thought I'd lost, and rose from the table. "Heading out, honey?" Rebecca chirped. I smiled, warmly. "Long shift today." "Be careful," she said, leaning over to kiss me, her lips brushing mine like the touch of a dagger hidden in silk. "You too," I murmured. "Oh, I meant it," because soon she'd need every ounce of luck she could find. Phase 1. The Net Titans. I spent the next 6 hours weaving myself deeper into the city's veins, a ghost inside the yellow skin of a taxi. Picking up fares, dropping them off, smiling, laughing, watching. By noon I caught them, a black SUV trailing 2 blocks behind, a motorcycle shadowing every right turn, same helmet, same gloves, rookies. I led them on a little dance, through Chinatown's tangle of markets, down the narrow veins of Little Italy, past construction zones where steel beams hung like guillotines over the streets. And all the while, I fed false data into their surveillance apps. See, back in Ghost Protocol, we learned an important lesson. When your enemy thinks they're hunting you, let them, but make sure they're hunting a ghost. At 4:30 p.m., I slipped into a secure lot I used to use back when life was simpler. Switched cabs with one of my loyal drivers. Same make, same model. Just different plates, slightly different tint on the windows. By the time El Coyote's team realized they were following the wrong cab, I was long gone, watching them from across the street, eating a hot dog and whistling Sinatra. Phase 2. The Message. That night, I returned home. Rebecca was curled up on the couch, scrolling through Zillow listings for homes far from the city, as if planning a sweet new chapter in her life with Michael Reeves. I watched her from the doorway. She looked so normal, so damn human. A month ago, I would have died for her without hesitation. Now I wouldn't cross the room to hand her a glass of water if she was choking. She looked up, smiling sweetly. "Rough day." "Long," I said. "Need a shower?" I did shower in, but not before installing a remote signal booster under the sink. One more node in the web I was weaving around her. Afterward, while she pretended to read, I pretended to sleep. At 2:13 a.m. she left the house. Thought I wouldn't hear. I tracked her phone. She met Michael Reeves at a small exclusive hotel downtown. Security cameras recorded everything. The hug, the kiss, the whispered laughter, the exchange of a brown envelope. Inside it, blueprints, flight itineraries, money transfers. Proof, not just cheating, conspiracy. Phase 3. The Awakening. At 3:30 a.m., back at home, I sat in the garage, staring. At the old tactical bag I hadn't opened in years. Inside were the tools of a life I swore I'd left behind. Glock 19 suppressed, multi-spectrum scanner, signal jammer, encrypted sat phone, and, at the bottom, a worn photo of my old Ghost Protocol team, smiling, alive. 3 of them were dead now, because they trusted the wrong people, like I had trusted Rebecca. I tightened the straps of the bag, feeling the old weight settle on my shoulders like an old friend. My hands no longer shook, my heart no longer raced. I was calm, focused. Tomorrow, Rebecca and Michael would learn the oldest truth of all. Never wake a sleeping ghost, because when you do, you don't hunt him. He hunts you, and he never, ever misses. The morning Rebecca left for work, I stood by the window of our brownstone sipping black coffee and watching the city wake up. Fools, all of them, scurrying through life, believing they controlled their fate. They didn't realize fate had teeth, and it had already sunk into them. Today was not just another day. It was the day the ghost stopped running. First I met with Ray Sullivan and Malene Torres at an abandoned warehouse in Queens, one that still smelled like rust and regret. Ray was already there, arms crossed, eyes scanning every shadow. Malene arrived a few minutes later, her face as sharp as ever. No small talk, no hugs, only purpose. "I'm in," Ray said without hesitation. Malene slid a dossier across the dusty table. "Surveillance on Rebecca and Michael," she said. "She's moving, they're consolidating assets, setting up offshore accounts." "She knows the hit failed," I muttered. Malene nodded grimly. "Not officially, but women like Rebecca. They feel when a plan starts to rot." "And what about Romano?" I asked. Ray's lips curled in a snarl. "He's moving too, gathering muscle. They're planning a second wave." "Perfect." "Then we set the bait," I said. I spent the next 48 hours building a new identity. Derek Mason, the vulnerable ex-ghost operative. Rattled and isolated after the supposed accident, I leaked fake information that my contacts had abandoned me, that I was staying alone in a safe house downtown, that I was vulnerable. I even let Rebecca intercept a few accidental emails where I sounded scared, paranoid, desperate. She swallowed it whole. Within hours, chatter on cartel channels exploded. Romano's men doubled their efforts. Rebecca. Michael and Romano all believed they had won. They didn't realize they were marching into a graveyard of their own making. The safe house wasn't just a place to hide. It was a killing field dressed up as a cozy brownstone, every window rigged with reinforced steel shutters, floor panels set to release tear gas on my command, a comms jammer ready to black out their phones, thermal cameras hidden in light fixtures, and hidden compartments filled with non-lethal but devastating weapons, sonic emitters, disorienting strobes, knockout gas. It was beautiful, a cathedral of pain, designed for betrayal. At 7 p.m., Ray and Malene took up overwatch positions across the street. I settled into the battered armchair by the fake fireplace, pulled a book into my lap, and waited. At 2:13 a.m., the witching hour, I saw the first shadows moving outside. 3 vehicles, blacked-out windows, no license plates, men emerging in tight formation, guns drawn, body armor beneath casual clothes. Professionals. Good. I set the trap into final motion. The front door burst inward. I didn't move. I didn't flinch. 3, masked. Men stormed inside shouting orders. Down, hands where we can see them. I calmly set the book down, stood up, raised my hands slightly. "You're making a mistake," I said. One of them laughed. "No, Cabby, you're the mistake." I smiled and pressed the remote hidden in my sleeve. Instantly the world shifted. The steel shutters slammed down over the windows, locking them inside. The floor hissed as tear gas filled the air. Flashbang grenades rigged into light sockets exploded with blinding fury. Sonic disruptors kicked in, sending nauseating low-frequency waves through the walls. The intruders dropped their weapons. Disoriented, screaming, I moved through the chaos like a shadow, disarming each man with brutal efficiency. Elbow to throat, knee to solar plexus, wrist breaks. One tried to reach for his comms. Her sharp jab to his trachea ended that ambition. Within 60 seconds, all 3 were down. Alive, but broken, just the way I needed them. While they lay moaning, I dragged their leader into the kitchen, sat him in a chair, pulled a phone from his pocket, smashed it. Inserted a burner SIM I prepared earlier, dialed Rebecca's private line. She answered immediately, her voice tense. "Well?" I held the phone close to the man's mouth. He whimpered something incoherent. I leaned in, speaking clearly into the receiver. "Rebecca," I said, voice cold as death, "you sent boys to do a woman's job." Silence, then, "Derek?" "Wrong," I growled. "The ghost." I hung up, dropped the phone into a pot of boiling water, then turned back to my captured prey. We had work to do. And Rebecca? She had just learned the first rule of war. If you come at the ghost, you better not miss. The day after the failed ambush, I watched from a distance as Rebecca spiraled into panic. Gone was the calculating woman who once treated life like a chessboard. In her place, a desperate amateur clinging to the illusion of control. Good taunt fear made people sloppy, and she was about to become a masterpiece of self-destruction. Michael Reeves tried to recover first. At his penthouse office, he barked orders at his assistants, shredded documents, drained whiskey like water. It was adorable how he thought money could protect him. He didn't realize I owned him now, through Malene's access to the FBI's cyber division. We had seized every account, every secret offshore holding he'd hidden. Romano's men. I let them think Michael had snitched. Within hours, whispers spread across New York's underbelly. Michael Reeves was a rat. Contracts were issued. Prices were set. A dead man walking, and he didn't even know it yet. Meanwhile, I turned my focus fully onto Rebecca. She holed up in her usual hotel hideout, ordering food delivery under fake names, switching burner phones every 6 hours, moving between safe houses. But no matter how fast she ran, she couldn't escape the ghost. Using the network of my drivers and agents, I mapped every step she took, every friend she begged for help. Gone. Every alley she thought she could hide in. Exposed. Fear gnawed at her now, corroding the armor she'd built. When she cried alone in her hotel room, thinking no one could see her, I watched through hidden cameras. When she whispered into her burner phone, I listened to every word. The woman who once played puppet master was now dancing to my strings. Ray Sullivan met with Romano's lieutenant in a seedy diner downtown. Over black coffee and stale pancakes, Ray whispered truths. "You really think Romano's bossing this?" Ray smirked. "Rebecca's been playing all of you, feeding you fake intel, using your crews for her own personal war." The lieutenant's hands curled into fists. His face reddened. "She's setting you all up," Ray continued, voice low. "Ghost gets you, Romano gets blamed." A spark of fear bloomed in the man's eyes. Good. Paranoia was a weapon sharper than any knife. By sundown, Romano's organization began devouring itself from within. Distrust spread. Like wildfire, fights broke out. Allegiances crumbled. Kill squads once united splintered into chaos. The Predator pack had turned rabid, just like I planned. I waited until Rebecca was at her lowest, trapped, hunted, and hopeless. Then I made my move. Late one evening, a package arrived at her hotel. Sweet. She almost didn't open it. Paranoia gnawed too deep, but curiosity killed more than cats. Inside the box, she found a single yellow rose, a burnt SIM card, and a photo. The photo showed her and Michael at their first meeting, Rebecca smiling, Michael enchanted. Across it, scrawled in thick black marker, was a single sentence. "The first move was yours. The last belongs to me." Attached was a tiny device, a voice recorder. She pressed play. My voice, cold and methodical, filled the room. "Rebecca, you thought you could manipulate a ghost. You thought loyalty could be faked, love could be used, trust could be broken without consequences. You forgot one thing." A pause, then a whisper. "Some debts are paid in blood." The recorder clicked off. She dropped it like it burned her hand. Outside her window, parked inconspicuously across the street, was my taxi, watching, waiting, smiling. As the days bled together, Rebecca and Michael's world shrank. Romano's soldiers hunted them, blaming them for betrayal. The cartel turned cold, refusing all aid. The law closed in from the other side, thanks to Maline's tireless work. No safe houses left, no allies, no exits, just the ghost, and the reckoning he promised. Rebecca tried one last desperate gambit. She called her mother Stephanie Mason, the matriarch who once sneered at me. Called me a fat monkey, told Hannah to cheat, plotted my downfall. I almost laughed when I intercepted the call. Stephanie begged for forgiveness, offered hush money, anything to save her daughter. I gave her silence and turned her plea over to the FBI, another nail in the coffin. At 2 a.m., under the sickly yellow light of a deserted Queens alleyway, Rebecca and Michael made their final stand. A battered sedan, a duffel bag of stolen cash, panic smeared across their faces. I watched them, through thermal optics, perched 3 stories above. Ray and Maline moved into positions silently, professional, ruthless. Across the earpiece, Maline's voice crackled. "Ready?" I smiled and gave the order. "End it." Within seconds, black SUVs blocked both ends of the alley, armed. Agents flooded in. Rebecca shrieked. Michael tried to bolt. A taser crackled, dropping him like a sack of flour. Rebecca sank to her knees, hands raised, sobbing. It was over. No more games, no more masks. The predator had become the prey, and justice, real, cold and merciless, had finally found her. The alley fell silent after the takedown. Only the ragged breathing of Michael and Rebecca filled the air, and the low hum of black SUVs idling, their engines like growling wolves ready to devour. I stepped out from the shadows, slow and deliberate. My boots echoed on the wet asphalt, each step a hammer blow on their shattering illusion. Michael lifted his head first, blood streaming from his nose. His lips moved around broken teeth. Derek, please. Pathetic. Rebecca raised her eyes next. Gone was the confident woman who orchestrated betrayals and assassinations. In her place, a wreck, shaking, crying, ruined, perfect. I knelt in front of her, calm, precise. Tell me, Rebecca, I said, voice low and steady. Was it worth it? She opened her mouth, but no words came. Only a soft whimper. You had everything, I continued, relentless. A family, love, a future. And you threw it away for what? For money? For thrills? For a man who sold you out the second things got hard? I jerked my thumb toward Michael, who was sobbing against the bumper of a black SUV. Rebecca's lip quivered. I leaned closer, letting her feel the full weight of her failure. You could have been my queen, I whispered, but you chose to be a pawn. Tears spilled freely down her face. Good. Let her drown in them. FBI agents moved in. Michael was dragged away in cuffs, wailing, pleading for deals that would never come. His fate was sealed. Lifetime imprisonment, isolation, forgotten. Rebecca tried to stand, but her legs buckled. I caught her gently, almost tenderly, and then I spoke into her ear. You won't go to prison, Rebecca. She stiffened. Hope flickered across her tear-streaked face. Hope, that most dangerous, most poisonous thing. I crushed it with a single sentence. You'll live. You'll live under surveillance. You'll be studied. You'll be a case file, a living cautionary tale for agents around the world. Every word you speak, every move you make, analyzed. Your name, stripped of honor, used to train others how to spot betrayal. You wanted to be remembered. I stepped back, meeting her hollow stare. Congratulations. As the agents escorted her into a waiting vehicle, Rebecca twisted one last time to look at me. There was no anger left, only a broken, pleading question in her eyes. Was I ever truly loved? I held her gaze and gave her the truth she didn't deserve. Yes. Then I turned away. No dramatic speeches, no Hollywood endings, just a cab driver walking back into the night. Weeks passed. The news cycle devoured the story. A wealthy financier, exposed as a terrorist enabler, a former intelligence psychologist unmasked as a manipulator, crime syndicates toppled, entire webs of corruption torn apart. Behind the headlines, I moved in silence, sold my old taxi. Opened a small garage in a sleepy town upstate. Sometimes at night I'd walk the quiet streets, hands in pockets, listening to the wind. Nobody knew that beneath the faded jeans and old jacket was a ghost, still alive, still watching, still waiting. Because justice isn't a single battle, it's a lifetime war, and me, I'm built for war. 1 year after the collapse of Rebecca and Michael's house of cards, New York thrived, oblivious to the storm that had passed. People moved on. The news moved on. But some scars never fade. They just learn to breathe beneath the skin. As for me, I hadn't vanished. I had evolved. Ghost Protocol wasn't just a memory now. It was a movement, a force unseen but ever present, a whisper in the darkness reminding the corrupt, someone is watching. With Ray, Malene, Sarah, and Chun, we rebuilt, but this time wiser. Every decision made was reinforced by one mantra. Never again. Never again would betrayal catch us unaware. Never again would love be confused for loyalty. We created Ghost Protocol 2.0, autonomous cells across the globe. Deep fake identities embedded into corporate structures, surveillance hubs hidden behind legitimate businesses, taxis, trucking companies, security firms, delivery networks. The arteries of modern cities became our domain, no longer reactive. We were proactive. When predators hunted in the dark, they didn't realize the darkness itself had teeth. Cases came to us in whispers, children smuggled across continents, executives running exploitation rings, politicians selling out their countries for profit. Each target was studied, profiled, judged, not by laws riddled with loopholes, by us. Some we exposed publicly, letting the world dismantle them piece by piece. Some disappeared without headlines, ghosts erasing monsters. We didn't operate for medals or thanks, only for justice, and for the echoes of all those who never got theirs. Michael Reeves, still breathing, barely buried so deep inside federal supermax prisons that even his own shadow had to file paperwork to visit him. He found religion behind bars, or pretended to, writing confession letters monthly, each more desperate than the last I never answered. Some betrayals don't deserve closure. Rebecca Mason. She lived, but not in any way she would have chosen. The government, thrilled by the success of her research, turned her into a permanent subject. Every hour of her existence monitored, every thought catalogued, every failed manipulation analyzed. The brilliant mind that once tried to control hearts and minds was now nothing more than an object lesson. How betrayal consumes its architects. As for me, I kept driving. Same city, different streets, same yellow cab, new passengers, new stories every day. Sometimes students rushing to interviews, sometimes grandmothers visiting old friends. Life moved around me, vibrant, chaotic, stubbornly alive, and in those moments I remembered I wasn't just a weapon anymore, I was a man who chose to protect, not just to punish. Ray and Chun adopted a son, a sharp-eyed, stubborn boy named Daniel, who already spoke 3 languages at age 7. Malene and Sarah opened a foundation, funding education programs for orphans. Day of conflict zones. They asked me to be godfather to their daughter, Grace. At first, I hesitated. What business did a ghost have guiding children? But when Grace grabbed my finger with her tiny hand and giggled, I realized maybe ghosts don't just haunt the past. Maybe they can help build the future, too. At night, when the city slept, when the sirens faded and the neon lights blinked tiredly against the dark sky, I sat behind the wheel of my cab. Sometimes I picked up a drunk investment banker ranting about markets, sometimes a teenage runaway hiding fear behind bravado. Every ride, every face, a reminder, the world is messy, complicated, worth fighting. For because the true war isn't fought with guns or explosions, it's fought in choices, tiny invisible moments where we decide to turn a blind eye, or to intervene, to forget, or to remember. I chose to remember. Passengers sometimes leaned forward, smiling curiously. How long you been driving? I always gave the same answer with the same knowing smile. Long enough to see that evil doesn't wear horns. It smiles. It loves. It betrays. But long enough, too, to know that hope doesn't die unless we let it. That justice, real justice, isn't loud. It's quiet. It's the promise kept in the dark, the vow whispered through blood and fire. You will answer, because in this world ghosts don't fade, they rise. 10 years, 10 long, brutal, beautiful years. The world shifted, twisted, evolved, technology advanced, empires rose and fell, wars broke out and ended in whispers, but through it all, Ghost Protocol thrived, from New York to Berlin, from Jakarta to Rio. Our network expanded like veins under the skin of the world. We weren't an army, we weren't terrorists. We were the guardians the world didn't know it needed, and we wore no uniform but one, the silent, unseen presence behind every corner, the whisper before justice struck. Ray and Chun's son Daniel turned 17, sharp as a blade, silent as a shadow. Underneath the laughter and stubborn teenage grins, he carried something more. Purpose, not born of vengeance, not born of hatred, born of understanding. He knew what the world really was and what it needed. Malene and Sarah's daughter Grace grew into a fierce force of her own, a brilliant mind wrapped in kindness, but forged from steel. She spoke 5 languages. She could dismantle a server farm in minutes, and she could read human lies like an open book. Watching them, I realized, Ghost Protocol would outlive us. It had become more than us. It had become an idea, and ideas are bulletproof. We refined our operations. Urban safe houses disguised as community centers. Underground communication networks impossible to trace. recruitment of veterans, orphans, survivors, those with eyes that had seen too much and refused to look away. Our missions grew bolder. Human trafficking syndicates dismantled before dawn. Corporate tyrants exposed in global broadcasts. Political puppets cut from their masters' strings before they could dance. The world never saw us coming. They still don't. But evolution breeds predators. A new force emerged. Smarter. Ruthless. Digital. They called themselves the architects. They didn't kill with bullets, they killed with algorithms, with whispers, with manipulation so subtle that by the time you realized your reality had already been rewritten, they didn't want to rule governments, they wanted to reprogram humanity itself. And the worst part, some of them wore faces we once trusted. One cold October night, I stood on the rooftop of a Manhattan building, watching the city bleed neon into the clouds. The encrypted phone buzzed once in my pocket, a simple message. They're coming for the children. I closed my eyes, felt the anger ignite inside me. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about survival. It was about the right of the next generation to live free. Ghost Protocol had fought monsters before. But this time we'd fight gods. As I drove through the rain-slicked streets, my old taxi humming steadily beneath me, I thought about everything that had brought us here. Rebecca, Michael, El Coyote. All of them thought betrayal was a shortcut to power. They thought ghosts were relics of the past. They were wrong, because ghosts don't fade. Ghosts adapt. Ghosts evolve, and ghosts remember. Always. In the dim glow of the dashboard, I whispered the words that had guided me through every war, every betrayal, every heartbreak. We are the storm they cannot predict. We are the justice they will never escape. We are the ghosts, and we are just getting started.